How you going, everyone? We're going to get started.
Yeah, how you going all? Thanks for coming along to another session with Scotty. There's a couple of crew just starting to come in. I'll just give you guys a bit of a heads up, a couple of events we've got coming up. We normally do our local luminaries once a month here at the Success Hub, but we've turned it into local Zoominaries this month. So next Thursday, the 14th at 7 p.m, we're going to do our local Zoominaries. One of the big challenges we've found in working with our crew lately is the whole balance of keeping your business kicking along while you've got kids in tow, you know, with the whole homeschool and ISA schooling. So on Thursday the 14th at 7 p.m, we've got a couple of guest speakers. We're going to talk a bit about how to build a business and balance family and kids at the same time. So that one's up on Eventbrite if you want to register for that one. Just a heads up, Scotty's been kind enough to open up his System 1357 training course for participants today and people we're connecting with at the moment. So we'll send you guys a follow-up email after this, and if anyone wants to tune in on Scotty's System 1357 training course, you're more than welcome to. We're going to be doing sessions with Scotty once a fortnight for the next 2 months. You know, April, with all that's been happening, was a real month of, I guess people went through a bit of a panic stage with what's been happening with COVID, and but then, you know, people got their ducks aligned, and I think May and June, you know, things are starting to open up again. It's really about refreshing and relaunching. So for the next 2 months with Scotty, every 2 weeks, we're just going to do a session with a bit of theme around refresh and relaunch. We've got you guys all on mute. Feel free to throw some questions in the chat box and we'll hit Scotty up with those. So Scotty, as you guys know, he's our Success Hub's entrepreneur in residence. He's a founder, former CEO of Renet, which is a software platform that sold over $1 trillion of real estate through 5,000 real estate agents through Australia and New Zealand. He is an Australian surf champ. He's our local legend, Scotty Schindler. So Scotty, time duplication, is this a Scottyism? Is this something you've created, or?
No, maybe for some people it's a Scottyism, but no, it's not. It's something that I learned in the 90s. And it's something that I understood every single successful person does. They manage to duplicate themselves, they duplicate their products, they duplicate everything. There's one thing we don't get more of, and that's more time. So how do you get the most effective reward out of the time, effort, and energy that you're putting in has got to be one of the secrets to success. Do something once and get paid more than once for it. Do something once and get more than one benefit for it. Has definitely got to be a formula. And like I did with that video, you know, it's something our grandmas have been doing forever. They make more food than they need, so they don't have to keep cooking for the kids, right? It makes perfect sense, but it's the same thing in business. And like I said, it's the one thing that every single successful person understands is time duplication. And that's through product, it's through wealth creation, it's through leadership. It's every part of their business. So, you know, at the moment we're stuck with single-use plastics because the cafes we're not allowed to take our own cups to cafes at the moment because of hygiene rules. But everyone has multi-use cups nowadays, multi-use drinking containers for water, but it's the same in business. The more we can get multi-use, so have something once and use it over and over and over again, it just makes perfect business sense. So when you ask, is it a Scottyism? Well, no, it's not, but it was 100% the philosophy of how I started the company Renet back in 2000. So every part of the company I had to be able to duplicate and duplicate and duplicate. You know, did you have to do sometimes things that didn't? Yeah, sometimes you have to, but it's more about the mindset of making sure you're getting rewarded more than once from your time, effort, and energy.
So can you give us some examples during your time at Renet, how you use time duplication? I guess also with the work you're doing now, you're setting up online training platforms and public speaking, those kind of things.
Yep.
You know, where have you used time duplication in business?
Well, the very first place I used time duplication at Renet was, I got paid to list a person's property on the internet. So I went into real estate agents and they'd pay me $50 a property to get that property, put it on their webpage, maintain that property while it was online being advertised, and then take it off again once it was sold. And I'd get $50 a property, and I'd be doing, I don't know, how many a week, I can't remember now. But it was a one-to-one action. So what I did was I wrote software that made it quicker for me to start with, so I could quickly put these properties online. And then I went, well, now it's time. I won't even touch the keyboard. I'll just teach agents how to do it, and they can pay me a monthly fee as well. So my first billing fee that I charged agents was just 2 properties a month. So I charged them $100 a month, which was 2 properties, and that was how I came up with the pricing model. And I just plucked it out of thin air, basically. I just went, well, I'll just do 2 properties a month. If they're listing 4, they're saving half the money. So they're saving money, and they can do it themselves and maintain the properties whenever they want. And I don't even have to be involved. All I've got to do is teach these people how to use the software, and they'll save money. So that was perfect time duplication as a product. Does that make sense? Mm. So that's an example there of exactly how the product was supposed to be released. So I showed enough people how to succeed in their business and save money, and they just paid me a monthly fee for that. So that was the model, or one of the models of growing Renet through product duplication. So it didn't rely on me, it just relied on the product. I kept on making the product better, so people kept on buying the product. And it had to be a duplicatable product in the first place. So the very foundation layer of Renet was a model of duplication.
I remember talking to you about when you first started Renet, it was basically knocking on doors, going door to door to door of real estate agents, constantly pitching a product over and over. Is there methods of time duplication you can use, even though you've got to go indoors constantly, that you can use to make your time more efficient? And that wasn't
necessarily the most effective way. I could have done sales, but it was the most effective way. Having those one-on-one conversations was really, really effective. So in the end of the day, that wasn't a time duplication model of going and knocking on doors physically one-on-one, but I had a strike rate of like 50%. So it was actually effective for growing the business. So what time duplication models did I use in the presentation? So that's more to the point. So when I went into the presentation, I actually put time, effort, energy in before I went in the door of every single place I went into. So I'd go into the software, I'd grab a few of the properties they'd already had online and a few of their staff I could already find, and I'd populate the software so it looked like their software to start with. So when I went in and gave a presentation, the actual software already had their content in there. So I didn't have to go in there and open their mind and then do a presentation and show them how to use it. I went in there, and the moment they started opening their mind, I actually had Exhibit A. I actually had all that pre-planned time that I didn't have to put in during the presentation. Does that make sense? All of a sudden I had all this free time. And they were straight into the belief mode of I can see my properties, I can see how this works now. So we skipped a whole layer. And like I said, half the time that didn't work, but my strike rate was really high because of it. And I didn't want to waste time inside that presentation. So I invested the time in advance. So I had all that time free in the presentation to talk about moving forward, as opposed to how to put a photo on the internet. It was already there. How to put a photo on the internet wasn't important. So that was how I duplicated time in the presentation. So the one-on-one presentation wasn't time duplication, but the presentation I provided, I duplicated my time in there.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was talking to an experienced business person just the other day, and they were talking about systems and processes in terms of one of the biggest keys to success is getting your systems and processes in place, as early as possible in business. And, whether it's systems and processes of what you do when you knock on someone's door and go and sell a product or that type of thing. But I was going to talk to you about time. So time's something we often talk about, valuing your time with the clients that we work with. And, I think it's really important that you can put a dollar figure on your time, whether it's $20 or $30 or $40 or, I don't know, you might be a couple $100, I'm not sure. But I think it's important to value your time. Sometimes we deal with people who are reluctant to engage a graphic designer or an accountant or something like that, but they could spend a day or two trying to produce a poster, and they give it to a graphic designer who can knock it up in an hour, and it's money well spent, if you ask me. So how important is it that people value their time? How do you put a value on your time?
Well, I guess you've got to put a self-value on first, but you're right. So, the common saying is the $5 job in the $50 hour. So if you're doing all your $5 jobs in $50 hours, you're wasting time, effort, and energy. So outsource that $5 job. Even if you've got to pay someone $20, you're still $30 better off if you're doing your $50 hour. It just makes perfect business sense. In saying that, though, I had friends say, well, what are you doing still mowing your lawn? Well, I mowed my lawn because it gave me exercise. I wanted to go home and mow my lawn and get the satisfaction with a beer and look at my lawn all mowed. But some people go, I'm not mowing my lawn, I'm paying some other guy $30 to do that. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. But so you've got to be careful which $5 jobs you want to get rid of. But get rid of the ones you don't want to do. But if I use that in leadership and business development, the very first thing I did to replace myself at ReNet was I'm not a graphic designer. So I hired a graphic designer first. You know what I mean? I was making money out of website design, but it wasn't a strength. So what I did was I found someone who had a strength of website design. I hired that person, and they turned that $5 hour that I was struggling with into $50 hours. So that's the duplication. So I'd much rather have someone that I could teach be just as good at me, if not better, and then let them be better than me. So having 3 or 4 Scotties in the business was way better than just one Scotty in the business, if that makes any sense. So that's duplication of time. And this is why all successful people understand duplication. So we're talking about product, and now we're talking about people. And duplicating yourself through people is way better. And if you can go and make $1,000 doing your core business and spend $200 with a graphic designer, well, you're $800 better off. You're 100% right. So it's no good spending all day on a graphic when someone else can do that in half the time. It just doesn't make any sense. So you're better off going and doing what it is that you're good at and letting someone else be better than you and do that. But there's a balance to it. Like I said, I used to mow my own lawn.
Used to?
Well, I still do. I still do. But I just remember the conversation came up once and I went, well, no, I enjoy mowing my lawn. This is a satisfaction thing more so than anything else. And if I didn't have time, that'd be different. But I enjoyed that part of it. So there's parts of your business you do enjoy and don't enjoy. But same, when it came to car detailing, I didn't really enjoy polishing the car. I paid someone else to do that one. I didn't feel like spending 3 or 4 hours on a Saturday polishing and buffing the car when someone else had better tools to do it. And for $200, it came back way better than I could do it.
Yeah. Can you give us some examples where you've seen maybe time used poorly in business? How could people have applied time duplication better?
One of the biggest, and I mean this positively, but one of the biggest mistakes most people make with time duplication is they continually doing the things they really enjoy, which is good, but they're not necessarily the most effective use of their time. And like I said, that can come with product or servicing clients, or let's imagine a chef, for example. He's a chef at a restaurant. He decides to start his own business. He's got to work out where his strengths are. He might enjoy talking to the people at the front, but if he's going to be the chef and the primary business owner at the back as the chef, well, that's what he needs to spend his time. And find someone that can be a better front of house than him. Does that make sense? Or if he just enjoyed owning a restaurant, he could be the front of house, but now he's got to find and duplicate himself through a chef out the back. So one of the things that most people do is they try to be, especially in a solopreneur business or a very small to medium enterprise, is they try to be good at all the things, and you physically can't. So working out your strengths and working with those strengths first, and then duplicating yourself, your time, effort, and energy through a third person just makes sense. So that's the mistake that people make, is they still try to be the jack of all trades. When it's much more efficient and you get much more bang for your buck by duplicating yourself through other means, outsourcing or insourcing, hiring someone. And that's the mistake I think people make, is they try to be the solopreneur and do everything.
I'm assuming when you first start a business, you kind of have to be to a certain extent. I guess money's tight, and you may have to do some of the graphic design or that type of thing, but I guess the quicker you can get yourself to a point where you can kind of bring in some of that expertise and like you say, put your time towards your strength is important.
But even simple things like time duplication, when you're doing your monthly books, you can be listening to a podcast. So you can have all this information coming in while you're actually doing something mundane. And that's duplication. So you're not doing something without being able to multiply your time and your effort and energy and your reward for that time. And they're simple things. So you're right, as a solopreneur, when you first start, you're doing everything. In fact, the reality is you sort of got to be doing the work of 3 people before you can afford to pay for 1 more person, if that makes any sense. You know, you've got to be doing so much work that you're busting, and then you finally got enough money to warrant that time, effort, and energy into hiring that person. So you've got to make sure that person you hire is effective and they're turning those $5 jobs into $50 hours instead of the other way around, or else it's just going to make you implode. So recognising that $5 jobs, so where you're best, where you're turning $50 jobs into $100 jobs, while someone else is turning $5 jobs into $50 jobs, then that's a perfect formula.
Yeah. So where are Scotty's strengths in terms of, you know, when you were starting to grow? Did you intentionally bring in people who perhaps were strong in product or finance or marketing, and that enabled you to then focus more on your strengths?
Yeah, 100%. So front of house was always a strength, but back of house was something I really enjoyed, programming. The one thing I did really always enjoy was hiring the website designers, the graphic designers, and those people that brought those skill sets. Because I didn't have those, not even a little bit, nor did I want to learn those. As much as I would have loved to have been able to do graphics, it just wasn't one of those areas that I found I could get a good return out of, so I didn't focus on those. So the very first thing I did was outsource those. I also, for the purpose of the business, a lot of the real estate agents, their support staff were mostly female. You know, the girl at the front desk and that sort of stuff. It's a typical scenario. So what did I do? Well, the first 2 hires I did was a website designer, a graphic designer, and the second one was an admin person that was also female. I know it's a little bit sexist, but I really wanted a female because the people who were ringing all the time wanting to know support were also female. So they had this relationship. So not only did I duplicate myself through someone to give general everyday support, I made sure that person related to the people on the other end of the phone. In other words, it was way better the relationship she was creating with the other people that were, you know, knew, like, and trusted her, as opposed to me doing it. You know, I'm a bit more blokey and a bit more factual, and she was a bit more, you know, that relationship and like-minded to the people she was talking to. So it made sense. I still remember the first time someone rang up, and they rang up and they asked for someone else other than me in the office. I answered the phone, and it was actually Tony. They said, "Is Tony there?" And I went, "Yeah." "Tony, you've got a call." I didn't have to get involved in the call. It was awesome. So, you know, and that's that next phase of duplication of yourself. So if I had 5 or 10 Scotties in the business that were just as good, even if 80, 90%, in some cases 150, 200% better than me, well, that's when you've got a business and you've got a company that works.
Yeah.
As opposed to just being a solopreneur.
Yeah. It can be pretty hard, delegation. You know, I think as a business owner, it's kind of your baby, and you don't know whether other people can do it quite as well as you can. And I think it's hard to... yeah, it's definitely an important task, but it can be hard to delegate, I think, too, at times.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you do feel like, oh, look, I'll just do it. But that's not nurturing that duplication in a sense. Like, let's go back to the grandma example. So grandma is teaching, you know, the granddaughter how to cook. So for those of you that watch the video about grandma, you know, she's teaching the granddaughters how to cook. But if she just cooked for them and they sat in the background and just watched, they're never going to be a good cook. She really wants to teach people how to be a better cook by letting them cook, make the mistakes, and nurturing them through that process. That's how generations get handed down. Well, it's the same thing in business. So if you're going to duplicate yourself through a staff member or a third person as a contractor, look, at first they may not be able to do it as good as you, mainly because they just don't know how you think or what your objectives are deep down. You've got years of background and they're just coming into the picture now. And that takes time to nurture and pass through. It doesn't just happen overnight. It doesn't happen in one session or 1 hour or 1 week. It takes time before people know how you think and what you believe in and what you believe is right. So it just takes time. Like I said, if Nana didn't pass down her experiences, you know, for example, she's done 60 years of cooking. She can't teach that in 1 or 2 sessions or 1 or 2 weeks or 1 or 2 Christmases. It takes years to pass that down as well. And it's the same thing in business.
Yep. I've just got a question here. I think it's from Mal, but it's just talking about in terms of time duplication, such as writing a course, you know, developing a course that can be purchased over and over again.
Yep, perfect.
But can that dilute, if you're also running live events, can that dilute the value of those live events?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, that's something you've got to work out. So look, I started doing courses online just a few months ago, mainly because I kept on repeating myself over and over again. So I was doing all these sessions with people one-on-one, and I was enjoying them. I was having a really profound effect on people, but I found I was saying the same things over and over again. So my preference was go watch the videos and then we can do a one-on-one session, or the other way around, we do a one-on-one session and then I can add some extra value back with the videos. But what I found is the videos it's a lot of time creating the videos. So potentially courses sound fantastic, but can also be a distraction. And this comes back down to your $5 jobs and $50 hours. In a sense, it's perfect time duplication, but as long as it fits into your business model. So, and everyone's got a different business model, and online courses definitely are, but they're a form of time duplication. You make these videos once and you get paid over and over and over again. So it's a perfect formula, or you get to leverage on it over and over again. But if you think it's a distraction, well, that's okay. You've got to find other ways to create duplication. But if you're a speaker and all you do is speak in front of live audiences all the time, well, that's okay. Part of your duplication is the recording of those talks that get put out to more and more people. So you don't miss the opportunity to record every time you go live, and you duplicate that effort back. It's a bit like writing a book. And one of the reasons why I chose writing software back at the turn of the century was because I couldn't write a book to get paid over and over again. I couldn't write music to get paid over and over again, but I figured I could write software to get paid over and over again, if that makes any sense. So you write a book once, if 1,000 people buy it, you can get paid more than once. So that's where online courses are good. However, it can also be a distraction. So you've got to work out whether that's part of your business model going forward. Even though it's perfect time duplication, it may not be perfect time duplication for yourself. And if you can't leverage on that course, well, all it is a distraction. So work out what other ways you can use time duplication instead. So the question came back to me yesterday online was, oh, this is perfect. I've been thinking about doing courses. And I'm going, yeah, well, that's fantastic. And I know I've started doing them and I swore I wouldn't do them, but I've had to do them because of duplication. I've been required to. But for some people, it doesn't fit their model. They can simply make some recordings and put them online, and they're free for people to go and watch, because that becomes marketing, it becomes repetition, it becomes all these things. So it doesn't have to be done as an online course. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Like it could even be just some of the recordings of your social media marketing. So you do something once and you can maybe put it on social media 3, 4, 5, 6 times over the next year. So you've got content. You duplicate it just through content, through marketing exposure and things like that. Or, once again, if I go back to what you asked earlier about ReNet and doing the one-on-one presentations, maybe some of these videos you're creating are so that way when you're having a conversation with a potential client, you've got a prop, you've got something you can show them that demonstrates what you're good at, so you can actually close a deal. Does that make sense? So it doesn't have to be an online course, but courses are good if that fits your model. So courses aren't the holy grail. In fact, I can tell you from real experience in the last few months, it's a lot of work. And then you haven't even finished. All you've done is the courses. The actual next bit is when people log in and have a look at it. Then that's when the work actually starts. So if that doesn't fit your model, courses aren't that good for you.
I guess you need to have a long-term vision too, in terms of a bit of patience and long-term vision. For example, I remember when we started doing e-newsletters, our MailChimp database had maybe 30 people in it. And so we'd spend half a day or a day putting together an e-newsletter that went out to 30 people. But now it's gotten to a point where we're up to about 500 or 600. So it's just that kind of building process. And
well, the whole time duplication is the one-to-many principle. So right now, we're doing a one-to-many presentation. We're recording this presentation. We're going to share it with more people. So this is a one-to-many time duplication. So for the hour the hour or two it took in advance, where we prepared, we organised, we set up everything, to the hour we're doing here now and the hour or two, so let's call it 5 hours to do this, we're probably going to get 30, 40, 50 hours worth of information out there to people as far as time duplication goes. Potentially even more over the next 12 months. So maybe there's 100 hours or 200 hours worth of benefit back from what we're doing today in this recording. But see, you've got to be careful though. If you're time duplicating the $5 hours into $5 hours instead of $50 hours, well, now you've got time erosion, which is actually the complete opposite. So you're duplicating ineffective or non-rewarding time. into more non-rewarding time. So you've got to be really careful that the ones you're trying to duplicate are the ones that can give you the maximum return back. And if we go back to the business of thirds model, sometimes you won't know that until you've actually had a crack at some of them. So time duplication is a philosophy. It's a mindset. But it doesn't mean everything's going to work. You know, you might create some brochures and all of a sudden you've got 100 brochures or 1,000 brochures, but some of those brochures don't work. You don't have to keep creating the brochures, you can hand them out. And then you'll do something else completely different and it'll work. But it's all about understanding the don't make more of the ones that don't work. Like I read a book with Robert Kiyosaki, right? And Robert Kiyosaki wrote a book about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I read that in 1999. And the example he gave on wealth creation and duplication of wealth was if you bought, and this is wrapping it all up into a sentence, right? If you bought an investment property and it made you $50 a week, how many of those investment properties could you afford? Well, as many as you want, right? You're making $50 a week. But if you bought investment property and it cost you $50 a week, well, how many of those could you afford? Well, not many before you're going broke. So all your duplication, even though both those examples were buying real estate and buying properties and trying to invest, one was smart because it made you money, and one wasn't smart because it cost you money. So instead of being an investment, it was actually a liability. So you've got to be careful that you're duplicating investments. And if it's not going to be a return, well, there's no point duplicating it because you're only causing yourself pain and grief. And that's the trick. But only you know that in your business. I can't tell you exactly what that is because you've got different strengths and weaknesses. You've got different opportunities and clients, different demands, social life. You've got also these different things. One-on-one, I can help out a bit more, but in a general session like this, it's very hard. But you've got to be careful that you're duplicating the right things. So duplicating yourself, duplicating wealth, duplicating time duplication. It's the one thing all successful people understand. Doesn't mean it's easy, but they all understand it.
I've always stuck by the KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid. When it comes, I remember the first business we started, I listened to a lot of people, took their advice. I kind of listened to too many people. When I opened the doors, I realised I'd overcomplicated things, For the 5 years after that, I was constantly, I was always looking for ways to simplify business. I feel like efficiencies come from just keeping things simplified. What's your theory on that?
Yeah, the KISS method. Keep it simple, Scotty. We tend to complicate things, and it's by nature. Especially we tend to complicate the things that we think we're good at because we do more of it. And that's fine. But at the end of the day, yeah, keeping everything simple is a method. And simple in delivery, simple in your ability to be able to deliver twice as much in half the time. Because that's one of the formulas. Try to think about how do I do twice as much in half the time? As opposed to just working really hard. I'm working 60 hours a week and I don't have any time. Well, that means you need to start working on how to be smarter. And you're right, over a 5-year journey, 10, 15, 20-year journey, you're constantly trying to work out how to work smarter rather than harder. What is there that I can do to be more effective with my time? And that's constantly refining things. And one thing I did learn at the company at Renet was everything just went in cycles. So 2 or 3 years later, we'd be doing the same things we were doing 2 or 3 years ago that people wanted to reinvent with a slightly different spin on it. And as a leader, I'd be going, sure, as long as the people are buying into it in the office, the staff, we should be doing this. All right, let's do it. Well, then it was good for the business. But that would die down and someone else would come up with another idea like we used to do years ago and just kept on going in cycles. But the method of keeping things simple for yourself so you can deliver upon what it is you want to do works. Yeah, keep things simple. Keep things simple for the stupid, keep things simple for Scotty, keep things simple. Then you can deliver. You can deliver what you promise. Better still, you can over-deliver what you promise rather than under-deliver on what you promise. So it makes sense.
Collaboration, resource sharing, how important is this? I guess for me it's come up recently. There's 20 people around the country delivering programs similar to what we're delivering, the entrepreneur program. So everyone is doing their own webinars at the moment. So we're talking about resource sharing in terms of, if I'm doing a webinar here, people in Perth can connect in and we can kind of resource share that way.
Yeah, 100%.
How important is it to collaborate and resource share?
Well, yeah, collaboration is a form of time duplication because you end up with more people wanting the same goal. Well, then you can leverage off those people to achieve it faster. through advice or motivation or leverage or whatever it is, a bit of business judo, definitely it makes sense. Yeah, so if you can, we're talking in terms here of how you do your time and do it twice. Well, you can also leverage off someone else's time, so you don't even have to do the time. Well, that makes sense too, right? So you go and get someone else's time, effort, and energy they've done really well at, and you use that in your business, so you didn't even have to put the time in. Now that's a service, you might pay for it, but it's way better for you to spend that $5 on their services than you spending hours. Once again, if you're duplicating the wrong hours, you're duplicating and making yourself go into a world of pain that you don't want to be in. So you've got to duplicate the right things. So that leveraging, that collaboration is definitely 100% an effective way of duplicating time. So anything that you can do one to many, anything can give you more hours back than you put in, anything at all is an effective strategy. So if you got up in the morning, you had 10 things to do today, and you got your box of not important, important, urgent, not urgent, and you got your boxes, right? Won't get into quadrants of what's important. But what's really important for you to do today is the things that are going to give you a return tomorrow and in the future. And what's not important today is the things that are the $5 jobs. And often those are the ones that drop off, which is perfect. But when you're going to pick out what you're going to do today, apart from the things that make you money today, you've got to be looking at the things that are going to make you money tomorrow and the next and the next. So avoid the ones that aren't going to be long term. And if you can collaborate to save you that time, effort, and energy, so you can just continue on the things that are going to be good for you long term, well, that is a perfect strategy. So 100% collaborate.
Yeah, it was interesting with, the restrictions that went in place as a part of COVID. I guess time was of the essence. I saw some of the gyms and those kind of places, they had to react quickly. And, I know the savvy ones, they had partnerships in place with people with already had online content. They could just shift their members straight into that online content. At the same time, they were kind of in the background building their own content.
Yep.
I think there was some other guys out there who didn't have any content. So yeah, I think those partnerships are really important.
100%.
In terms of pivoting in different directions. So at the moment, with the restrictions in place, some people are left with more time on their hands. Is that what they should be doing? Should they be re-looking at the systems and processes they've got in place, the kind of dead wood, the things that aren't working, the things that are working?
Yeah. Well, one of the things when you're in business is it's really hard sometimes on a day-to-day basis to take a step back and look at your business and go, well, what is good in this business, like properly? And at the moment, a lot of people are forced into this step back situation. So you can relax and have a deep look at what is really working. What are the top 30 things that are the most effective things for me to be doing going forward in this next decade? What are those things? And what are the things I'm going to just drop or outsource or give away or ignore? What are those activities that are not going to be any good for the business going forward? And on a day-to-day basis, sometimes it's hard to actually take that much time to have a look. So, during this period of slowdown, if you want to call it, what a lot of people I've been seeing doing are taking stock on their business. They are having a proper look and going, well, how can I be more efficient going forward? Get rid of the $5 jobs and continue on the $50 jobs instead of the $5 jobs. It just makes perfect sense. And people are doing that. So one advantage out of COVID is some people are going to rebirth with much better business systems, because you can work systems, continue to work systems that are good systems. The business is going to work. So implementing some of those systems just makes sense. But on a day-to-day basis, when you're flat out every day and you've got things coming and stock arriving and staff and clients, you don't always get that step back. So right now, people have had a few weeks to step back and go, okay, well, what is it that I really want to do? And out of that, some people are going to get out of businesses. They're going to go, well, this just isn't working. I've done 5 years now. I'm beating their head against the brick wall. I'm going to pivot. I'm going to change. I'm going to do something else. And other people are coming out going, wow, gee, I really didn't need to be doing that, did I? So when I go back and open the doors again, I'm only going to do this, this, and this. And it's been interesting to watch people change. And I guess now the leverage on technology, like we're talking to people right now all over the world through a Zoom call. This 6 months ago would have been no interest at all. People only want to hear people speak live. So now we're able through technology, and every business is the same. Every business now is learning how to leverage more and more technology to be more efficient in time. So we can have an impact all over the world right now from the Success Hub in Sawtell I went surfing this morning. I'm going to my father-in-law's birthday this afternoon at the Bacchus Hotel. So once upon a time, we would have had to be all over the world. So you can deliver products and services so much more efficiently through technology. But believe it or not, people weren't ready for it. Now, not only are we ready for it, we're embracing it. So now you can be way more efficient about how you deliver things. Way more efficient. So as an example, the guy next door swore he'd never do breakfasts. He had to pivot and change because of COVID. From a bar, he now opens for breakfast. And he's doing really well at it.
Actually, I've got another question here about collaboration. If you are collaborating with other businesses in a similar industry, have you got any advice on how to increase the likelihood that it's going to be a win-win situation? You know, you get those situations where one party comes out with it good, the other party doesn't come out so good. How do you increase the likelihood of a win-win situation?
Well, that's hard. A bit like telling someone marriage advice. It's it's difficult. It's difficult to say how the outcome's going to be, right? But at the end of the day, the likelihood depends on the parties and how that relationship goes forward and what the win-win actually is. Not when you first talk about collaboration, but when you actually execute the collaboration. And generally speaking, with most of the collaborations I've always done, there's always been times where someone else is getting more benefit than me, or the other way around. Sometimes I'm getting more benefit. And it's up to people to maximise those relationships. It is a tough one though, because sometimes collaboration just doesn't work. 3 months in, one party's getting all the benefit, and the other party's doing nothing, and that can happen. And you take those risks. But it's up to you to realise that that's one of those time duplication models that isn't working, and you cut your ties. Don't keep doing it if it's duplicating time in an ineffective way. It's just costing you time. So the moment things become a lose-lose, and time manipulation, I guess, is the opposite of time duplication, isn't a good thing, or time erosion. You've got to be really careful with the time erosion things. So when you wake up every day, you go, well, what's the most effective things I can be doing today? They're going to create a sale today and a sale tomorrow, or a client today and a client tomorrow. What are the effective things I can be doing? The rest of the things, they're not that important. They're not going to be there for this decade coming. They're just going to erode at your time every day. So if it's not getting you a client or not getting you a sale or not growing your business today, which is obviously the most important things, the second tier down, if it's not an investment in your business tomorrow and the future, well, it's really not the most effective things you can be doing. It's time erosion.
How do you overcome procrastination? And I'm not talking about procrastination like, I was sitting in a couch all day or whatever, but in terms of, sometimes you might be doing the thing, you might be working really hard, but it's not necessarily on the most important part of the business.
Something
I guess it can be procrastination in terms of maybe you don't enjoy sales or selling, so you're just going to go down this path instead because you're more comfortable in that path. Yeah,
you don't want to be picking up the phone talking to some of your customers when you know it's the most effective thing you could be doing.
Yeah.
Look, how do you avoid it? I guess that comes down to your goals. We all suffer from it. There's no one in this world that's perfect. There's no one at all that's perfect. No matter who you think is way up there in the stratosphere as a perfect business owner goes, there is no one that's perfect. But they are, if you get some principle-centered business philosophies, well, then that helps you make some of those decisions. And how you overcome procrastination, like I said, if you look at what the 10 things are that you could or should be doing today, there's some things you have to do because it's just part of your day-to-day process. But there's other things that are important, and you just have to bite the bullet if that's going to achieve what you want to duplicate your time, effort, and energy down the line. So if you don't want to be doing some of these things today and you're procrastinating, well, find someone else to do it, outsource it, or work out a way so it's not eroding at your time. If it's an important part of your business, well, then you have to work out a system that gives you that benefit back. Like at Renet, I didn't want to be teaching new real estate agents how to set up their email servers every time they set up. So I hired someone to do that. And we put out videos and worksheets on how to do that. So I even taught the staff how to duplicate their time. So I didn't want them sitting on the phone for half an hour talking to people about how to set up their email accounts on their computer. No, we created some stuff for that. So that way my staff could be having the lovely, jubbly conversation and having a really good relationship with people instead of just giving them the mechanics of what to do. So while they're doing the mechanics, we can have a good relationship. So the mechanics can be duplicated in a process that people can just quickly watch a video or quickly read a text document and implement how to set up their own mail server. This is how you do it. Okay, cool. And then we ring them up with the lovely jubbly support and go, how's it going? And they go, oh, no, yeah, it's all good. I got it all done. And now we're having a lovely cordial conversation and building those relationships around know, like, and trust. As opposed to, all right, what you need to do is click on this button. You need to open this form. You need to put in your name and email address. That can be duplicated. I didn't want to be saying that thing over and over and over again, 1,000 times a year. Nor did I want my support staff doing it, because it was a $5 job in their $50 hours. So that methodology goes all the way down. And it's those knowing that things are $5 jobs. If they're $50 jobs and you're procrastinating, well, that's a different issue. If we use the $5 jobs and $50 hours analogy, you've really got to be doing the things that are effective for your business. You can't afford to procrastinate.
So how is Scotty using the current, time with restrictions and all the rest that are in place, and people seem to have a bit more how's Scotty using it in terms of the business you're doing now?
Oh, look, the whole one-to-many thing, it's the world sort of opened up at the moment. Everyone's opening up about, going online and watching videos and doing courses. So, I'm very fortunate that I started this process before COVID, because I was trying to duplicate time from last year. So that's what I've been doing a lot of. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying having the impact on people all over the world. So yesterday I was talking to, a lady in Greece. I'm going, how fantastic is this? 6 months ago, maybe that would have happened. But I know for a fact, out of COVID, it's all happening. So I'm not sure everyone's from today, because I can't quite see all the names on the list. But I know people from all over the world were signing up. Rob was in just for a little bit earlier. I'm not sure if he's gone, but he was in from Canada. So this whole ability now to be able to talk, there he is, we can talk and have an impact from people all over the world. It's an amazing thing. So that's a form of time duplication. So time duplication is, one-to-many, so which is what we're doing now. Time duplication, what we're doing as well, even just this example right now is we're recording it, so this will come content for marketing and so on. People will be able to watch the recordings later on. So that's what I've been focusing down and doubling on. I mean, I had no intentions of doing courses, as you know, but it just made perfect sense to do it. And now through COVID, it's even making more sense to actually put the content out there and let people watch and learn.
Yeah.
And that's been an amazing thing. Be able to, is there any more questions? But type in the questions if you've got them, guys, because we've got like 15 minutes left. To be able to have this interaction with people. Like we've at the Success Hub, we put 60 odd people in here just in February, just before we had to start shutting down. And, that's a form of time duplication too. So running an event where you get 60 people in to listen to one person talk is a form of time duplication. But it's good because we have a few wines and a few beers and a few nibbles, but that's a form of time duplication. It's just that now we're doing it online and it's all over the world. So before we were doing it just for locals. So now we've got another model through Alt Collective and the Hub and all the entrepreneur facilitators around Australia. We've now got another avenue to share the message with more and more people all the time. So it's been good fun.
It's opened up interesting opportunities in terms of, the region we cover is, 2 hours north and a couple of hours south, a couple of hours west, whereas our Zoom-in areas that we've got next week, we're able to bring in people from a couple of hours north and a couple, and bring them all in together.
Victoria,
which we've never been
overseas,
we've never been able to do before. So it's opened up opportunities. We've got a couple more questions here, guys.
So while Courtney's looking at the questions, so time duplication, once again, if I go back, just to reiterate, if you're making some notes, it's about product, it's about staff or self-duplication through other people. It's about wealth creation. So you've worked hard for your money. So as a round example, let's say you've made $100,000 a year over the last 10 years, you've made $1 million. Well, how much of that is still working for you today? And if you go forward and look at the next 10 years, let's say you're still making $100,000 a year and you're going to make $1 million in the next 10. Well, what are you going to have at the end of the 10 years that's working for you? So you don't have to continue making this $100,000 a year. Now, whatever your figures are, you can halve that, double it, do whatever you like. But that's just an analogy on the figures. What are you doing with your money that you made for the last 10? And if the answer is, well, I haven't done a lot, well, that's okay. That's perfectly okay. But be a bit smarter in the next 10 years. Make sure the money you're making, you're duplicating over the next 10 years. And it's a process. It's not something you can wave some magic wand and go, I'm going to do time duplication. I'll be successful next week. It's not that simple. It's a philosophy. It's a principle. And if you employ more and more and more of these things every year, and if in 10 years' time, you've got 10 things solid that are duplicating for you, well, you've got an amazing lifestyle and wealth creation. Does that make sense? There's no magic wand or magic carpet. These are philosophies and principles that all the successful people around the world employ. And the exact model, that's up to you. But if I use wealth creation, which is one of my favorite subjects, how much money did you make in the last 10 years? How much money are you going to make in the next 10 years? And what are you going to have for it that's working for you? So you're not continually doing that work for it. So you've duplicated your wealth and your production that way.
Yeah, I think the money, it's interesting in terms of time. You know, I think some people are uncomfortable with the whole money thing in terms of, well, how much do you want to earn out of your business in the next 12 months? And I think that really dictates how you spend your time as well. Whether you go down this path, you know, if you go down this path, you're not going to earn that money. You need to kind of look at this path. So I think it's important to have those financial goals to dictate where your time goes.
Yeah.
Rob's thrown in an observation there saying that, you know, imagine if we'd been quarantined 20 years ago, much of what we're doing now would be impossible. There'd be no Zoom. I mean, online training was, I don't know if it was still around.
It was software that you downloaded and stuff.
No Netflix.
No Netflix.
Yeah, what would Scotty be doing in the year 2000 at ReNet if all this was going down?
To tell you the truth, I honestly don't know. But we still had the internet back then. We didn't have nice, easy ways to do it like Zoom and stuff like that. There was other chat. I can't remember what they were even called, but I was always on chats even at the end of the 90s. So there was other methods back then, but certainly we're so lucky that the internet's mature enough. Like we've been on Zoom since like 2007 or something at ReNet. So we're so lucky that this technology is around, and there's the Netflixes of the world, there's the Zooms of the world. Because you're right, at 2000, I'm not sure what I would have been doing. I would have just had to deal with it at the time. But I know what I would have done, to be honest with you, if it really came down to where I couldn't deal with clients, I just would have been making more product. So whenever I came out of it, I had more to sell. So I would have been sitting down, doubling down on improving the product. So whenever things were slow at ReNet, that's all we did anyway.
Yeah.
You know, if sales weren't coming in, that was sort of a relief because we could sit down and double down on product, if that made any sense. And product is what people want to buy. And as we move out of this, people are going to go, well, who's going to save me time or who's going to make me money? And what are those products and services that I really need? So right now, people are doubling down, and that's what I would have been doing back then. Because like I said, if we had a slow month, so when we went through the GFC, that was awesome. Because we then came up with the responsive website plans, and we came up with the apps and stuff for real estate agents. We actually had the time to go back and do those. We always had them on the radar, but when people are constantly spending money with you, they've got their own demands. You don't get time to step back and invest in your own business. So we did that through the GFC.
Good. Well, we've got 10 minutes to go. I might even open it up. Happy to open it up.
Yeah, mate, if you want to open it up.
If anyone, so I'm going to unmute everyone. And if anyone's got any questions, feel free to throw them out there.
Well, while we're waiting for someone to jump up, one of the time duplication is part of the 5 in the system 1357. So the 5 philosophies are business judo, time duplication, the rule of 100, business of thirds, and sugar and cream. So collectively put together, they're all business principles. They're not blueprints of what to do. So time duplication, I can't give you a blueprint. Go and do this, this, and this, and you'll get what you want. It's not a blueprint for your business. It's a philosophy or a mindset for your business, if that makes any sense. Like if you had Nana or Grandma or your Uma that didn't want to teach you how her recipes that she knows, well, then you're never going to learn those recipes, right? If she doesn't want to hand those down and have 3 or 4 people that help out at Christmas lunch instead, well, then if she just wants to be the person to do it all, well, that's okay. That's just the way that is. But I'm not suggesting it's the right thing to do. I'm suggesting that mindset and that philosophy is a way better way of going forward to work smarter rather than harder. And that all those 5 business philosophies aren't blueprints. They're ways of you to leverage on your business in ways that you can grow your business in the way you want it to grow. So having those goals is really important as well. So they're not blueprints. I can't say, follow this, do 1, 2, 3, 4, and you'll get what you want. But I know if you do business judo and you do it well, I know if you do time duplication and you do it well, I know if you understand the rule of 100 and do it well, I know if you do the business of thirds and understand it, and I know if you do sugar and cream, you're going to have a great business. But everyone's business is different. So a restaurant to a mechanic, to a builder, to a business coach, to a videographer, they can all use it, but it's up to people to work out how to use it in their business. So was that another question that just came up? Or anyone want to say anything?
Sure. Not sure if I'm live or not. Am I live?
Yep.
I'm on. No, I was just going to say the application is really it's practical because you can just it's the concept you've really nailed well that provides the structure because you're right. What I do in the wine and beer world is going to be very different in some senses to what somebody would do with something a little more service oriented, like a stockbroker, for instance, or somebody in the bond market or the real estate market, or even if they're creating software. But it's the concept and structure, I think, that has the most power to be able to be taken and adapted by the end user. That's what I see here. And I see it's very adaptable.
Yeah. And, like you're doing the drunken grape, which is awesome. And you're doing videos on the wines that people should drink because I can never pronounce the word, sommelier.
Sommelier, yeah, you're close. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, something like that. I just like to think Rob knows his wines. But, you're doing time duplication. You're creating these videos. And when people want to engage Rob, what do? They go and research who Rob is. You're not selling those videos, but who's Rob? Well, Rob, let's look at all these videos. And straight away, you've duplicated your marketing and who you are and the value you bring through 10, 15, 20, 50 videos.
It's true.
And that's duplication of your brand. So you're now spreading it out. So, and that can turn into rewards anyway, because people want their wines promoted or want your services or want help with other things. But, when they want to know who Rob is, they go online and there's Rob talking about wines in an effective way that shows he knows what he's doing. So you're doing more than just one thing. You're duplicating that over and over and over again. So even though you've got to take whether it's 3, 4, 5 hours to create that video, that is going to pay you back tenfold. And that's what it's about. So it doesn't have to be video production, by the way. It's just at the moment, everyone's pivoting to it because that's what we can do. And some people will continue to do it in the future and some people will stop because it's a $5 job. But the point is that it's perfect time duplication with what you're doing now because you're talking about you and what knowledge you have. You're talking about the brands and what they bring to people. You're duplicating it with the time and putting it on your YouTube channel and creating that brand around yourself and the products and Canadian wines all in one go. So it's a great system.
Yeah, it's just like you said, it just takes time, but I'm just keep putting the pedal to the metal because it's just about being consistent too and not giving up and persevering.
Yeah, and you don't have consistency is good, but you don't have to put out something for the sake of it. Put out something.
No, never. Yeah, no, never do that. You're right.
Time duplication, if it's done in the wrong way, is duplicating the wrong things. So if you're putting in good content, whether it's weekly, daily, monthly, it's irrelevant. I mean, it doesn't have to have this system of every day I have to be out there. But what has to happen is the system of quality has to be done. So that's
true.
So or else you're eroding it. You're actually duplicating the bad bits and not duplicating the good bits. And that's where you spoke about it earlier, Courtney, about sitting back and assessing things. And you have to do that because if you're going to start duplicating all the bad bits, you're going to go down a world of pain. You're going to go down in a world of or a path that you just don't want to be down. So it's really important to understand that time duplication of the effective things is the secret sauce.
Yep. Yeah, and it's especially with video content, it's great that you mentioned that. It's better to create when inspired and impassioned as opposed to, oh shit, I just have this timeline and I have to hit this time. Because you're right, the product won't even be anywhere near what you'll come out with when you're fired up about it, you're passionate, and it's genuine, and it comes not only from knowledge, but it also comes from the heart. It's real. Like you're doing it with a purpose that's real and real intent. Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
it's important to enjoy what you do too. It's like,
Yeah.
when we develop content for social media, I know that if you're just really struggling for something, often that post doesn't rate so well. If you're enjoying it, if you have fun pulling a post together, you'll post it up. Not quite often it'll get a hell of a lot more hits than if you didn't enjoy it. So.
It's true.
So in wrapping up, unless there's any more questions come up, otherwise I'll start to wrap up as a bit of a close. Did anything else come up?
No, I think we've just about got it.
Yeah. So
Scotty,
I'll start to wrap up. So one of the questions from yesterday is about online courses, and it came up today. And I say yes, that's a smart way of doing time duplication, but only if it's going to be something that gives you a reward in duplicated time, as in the benefit you get back from that effort and energy. Otherwise, it's time erosion. So you've got to be careful that it's the right one. So the question came up yesterday, and the questions come up again today. I do believe that the duplication of your content, whether it's through a course or just through a YouTube channel or your website, is a very smart way of doing things. We did it at ReNet, and they weren't online courses, but they were definitely there. So people, the mechanics of what to do could be duplicated, so I could have better time with relationships. But time duplication is once again, it's about product, it's about leadership and development, it's about wealth creation, and then it's genuinely about your own use of time and being effective with time. So it's definitely, it comes back to yourself first. There's only one of you. You get 1,440 minutes a day, and you want to get a maximum return out of that, whether it's with your family, whether it's with your health, or whether it's with your business, and you want to get maximum benefit out of your time. It's the one thing we don't get back. The days are long and the years are short. So make sure they're effective use of your time. And the more you can do something once and get the multiple benefits out of it, like Nana, well, the far better you're going to be in your business and achieving your goals over the next 10 years.
And I think it reinforces the importance of being passionate about what you do too. If you can come to work and enjoy what you do and have a good time, that's what it's all about. So, hey guys, we might wrap it up. It's right on 11. Thanks a bunch for hanging out.
Cheers, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, cheers. And we're going to catch up with Scotty in 2 weeks' time, same time, 11 a.m. on the 20th. We're going to talk about Scotty's rule of 100. Don't forget, if anyone wants to tune into our local Zoom-in areas on how to keep your business ticking along while you've got kids hanging in tow, then 7 p.m. Thursday the 14th. Feel free to tune in. So thanks again for joining us. Thanks a bunch, Scotty. And we'll catch you guys all next time.
Cheers, thanks.
Cheers, guys. Have a great day.